ever wonder why your roast never turns out quite as you envisioned? Too dry, too tough, or lacking that golden brown exterior? Perhaps you've scratched your head over uneven cooking, where the outside is charred while the inside is still pink. Or maybe you've been left disappointed by a lack of flavor, despite your diligent seasoning. It's a common conundrum, one that's faced many a home cook. Roasting is an art, one that requires a fine balance of temperature, timing, and technique. Get it right and you'll be rewarded with a succulent, flavorful meal that's sure to impress. Get it wrong and you're left with a dry, tough disappointment. But fear not, because this is where we step in. We're here to guide you through the roasting riddle to help you achieve that perfect roast every time. So are you ready to step up your roasting game? Stay tuned as we unravel the secrets to perfect roasting. To master the art of roasting first, we need to understand what roasting is. Roasting is a dry, heat cooking method that brings out the best in many foods. It's all about surrounding your choice of food with hot, dry air in your oven or on a spit over an open fire. This cooking technique allows the outside of the food to caramelize and brown, producing a rich, deep flavor that's hard to resist. But what's the science behind it? It's simple, really. When you roast, the Maillard reaction kicks in. Named after a French chemist, this reaction is a form of non-enzymatic browning that occurs when the proteins and sugars in food are heated. This chemical reaction is what gives roasted foods their distinctive flavor and appealing brown color. And it's not just about the taste. The Maillard reaction also creates enticing aromas that make your kitchen smell absolutely divine. So how does roasting differ from other cooking methods? Well, unlike boiling or steaming, which are moist heat cooking methods, roasting uses dry heat. This means that the food doesn't lose as much moisture during the cooking process, resulting in a juicier and more flavorful end product. In contrast to frying, roasting requires less oil, making it a healthier option. And compared to grilling, roasting offers more control over the cooking temperature, ensuring your food cooks evenly. Now you might be wondering what types of food can be roasted. The answer is almost anything. From meats like beef, chicken and lamb, to vegetables such as potatoes, carrots and bell peppers. Even fruits like apples and peaches can be roasted to create a delicious, caramelized treat. The beauty of roasting is that it's versatile enough to handle a wide variety of foods, making it a must-have skill for any home cook. Now that we know what roasting is, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty of the process. A great roast begins with great preparation. So let's dive into the essentials of prepping for roasting. The first, and perhaps one of the most critical steps, is preheating the oven. This step is often overlooked or rushed, but it's vital for achieving that beautiful, even roast. Preheating ensures that your oven is at the right temperature from the moment your roast goes in. You see, if the oven is too cold when the roast enters, it may cook unevenly, leaving you with a roast that's overcooked on the outside and undercooked on the inside. Now let's talk about seasoning. While it seems simple, seasoning a roast is an art in itself. Whether you're using a classic combination of salt and pepper or venturing into a more complex blend of herbs and spices, the goal is to enhance the natural flavors of the meat. Remember, seasoning isn't just about adding salt and pepper on top. It's about massaging those flavors deep into the meat. And don't be shy with your seasonings. A good roast can handle a good amount of flavor. Finally, we come to a step that might surprise you, bringing the meat to room temperature before roasting. Why, you ask? Well, when meat is at room temperature, it cooks more evenly. If you put a cold roast in a hot oven, the outside will cook quickly, while the inside struggles to catch up. By allowing your roast to sit out for about 30 minutes before cooking, you're setting yourself up for a more evenly cooked, juicier roast. Remember, the key to a great roast is in the preparation. Every step we've discussed today, preheating the oven, seasoning the roast, bringing the meat to room temperature, is crucial in its own way. Neglecting any one of these steps could mean the difference between a good roast and a great one. With our roast prepared, we're ready to dive into the cooking process. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the roasting process itself. Roasting is a cooking technique that's all about patience, precision, and a little bit of culinary magic. It's a transformational process that turns raw ingredients into a mouth-watering, delicious meal. But how does it all work? Well, let's dive right in. The first step is to preheat your oven. This is crucial because a properly preheated oven will ensure even cooking. Depending on your recipe, this could be anywhere from 300 to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. While your oven is heating up, you can take this time to season your roast. A simple combination of salt and pepper will do the trick, but feel free to get adventurous with herbs and spices that complement your chosen protein. Once your oven is preheated and your roast is seasoned, it's time to place your roast in the oven. Use an oven-safe pan or dish and make sure your roast is placed fat side up. This allows the fat to melt and baste the roast as it cooks, giving you a juicy, flavorful result. Now this is where patience comes into play. Roasting is a slow process that can take anywhere from 20 minutes to several hours, depending on the size and type of your roast. You'll want to resist the urge to open the oven door too often. Each time you do, you're letting out heat and potentially slowing down the cooking process. So how do you know when your roast is done? This is where a meat thermometer becomes your best friend. Insert it into the thickest part of your roast, making sure not to touch any bones. The internal temperature is what tells you when your roast is cooked to perfection. For instance, a roast chicken is done when the temperature reaches 165 degrees Fahrenheit, while a beef roast is perfect at 145 degrees for medium rare. But remember, the cooking process doesn't stop the moment you take your roast out of the oven. It's important to let your roast rest for at least 10 to 20 minutes before cutting into it. This allows the juices to redistribute throughout the roast, ensuring every bite is as flavorful and juicy as possible. And what about the oven temperature and roasting time? These are two key factors that can make or break your roast. A too high oven temperature can result in a roast that's burnt on the outside and raw in the middle. On the other hand, a too low temperature can leave you with a roast that's dry and lacking in flavor. As for roasting time, it's better to err on the side of undercooking rather than overcooking. You can always put a roast back in the oven, but you can't uncook it. Roasting is an art as much as it is a science. It requires an understanding of how heat works to transform raw ingredients into something delicious. With the right oven temperature, the correct roasting time, and a little patience, you can create a roast that's perfectly cooked, juicy, and packed with flavor. So that's how you properly roast. But what about those pesky problems we talked about earlier? Roasting can sometimes be a tricky business, but don't worry, we've got solutions. First up, let's talk about uneven cooking. This is a common issue many face, and it's usually due to the inconsistent heat distribution in your oven or the improper placement of your food. To combat this, you could try rotating the pan halfway through the roasting process. This helps to ensure that every part of your food gets an equal share of the heat. If the problem persists, consider getting an oven thermometer to check if your oven is heating up to the right temperature. Next, we have the problem of lack of flavor. If your roast is coming out bland, it's likely that it's not being seasoned enough. Remember, roasting is a high-heat process that can dull flavors, so don't shy away from using a generous amount of herbs and spices. Also, consider marinating your food overnight. This can infuse it with deep, robust flavors that won't fade away during the roasting process. Now, let's tackle the issue of dryness. Overcooking is often the culprit here. To prevent this, it's crucial to use a meat thermometer to ensure your roast is cooked to the right temperature. For instance, if you're roasting chicken, the internal temperature should reach 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, try letting your roast rest for a while after it's out of the oven. This allows the juices to redistribute throughout the meat, keeping it moist and flavorful. Another common problem is a tough or rubbery texture, usually a result of too high a heat. Roasting should be a slow, gentle process, so if you're finding your food too tough, try reducing the oven temperature and increasing the cooking time. This will allow the heat to penetrate the food more evenly, resulting in a tender and juicy roast. And finally, if you're finding your roast lacks a crispy golden brown exterior, it's likely that your oven's not hot enough or you're not roasting for long enough. Try increasing the temperature or the cooking time. But remember, balance is key. You don't want to overdo it and end up with a burnt roast. So there you have it, solutions to some of the most common roasting problems. Remember to rotate your pan for even cooking. Season generously for maximum flavor. Use a meat thermometer to avoid overcooking. Adjust your oven temperature and cooking time for optimal tenderness, and get that oven hot enough for a crispy golden exterior. With these tips in your arsenal, you're well on your way to roasting perfection. So, you've followed all the steps, and now you have a perfectly roasted dish on your table. Isn't it a sight to behold? But what makes a roast perfect? Well, there are a few telltale signs that your roast has hit the jackpot. Let's delve into what those are. First off, it's all about balance. A perfect roast is a harmony of textures. On the outside, you're looking for a beautiful golden brown crust. This isn't just about aesthetics, though. That crust is a treasure trove of flavors, a result of the Maillard reaction, where heat transforms the proteins and sugars into a symphony of taste. But what's on the inside counts too. Cut into your roast and it should reveal a juicy, tender interior. This is where your choice of meat, your marinade or seasoning, and your careful control of temperature and time come into play. It's a delicate dance to keep the moisture locked in while achieving that crispy exterior. But when you nail it, it's nothing short of culinary magic. And let's not forget aroma. A perfect roast fills the room with a mouth-watering scent, a prelude to the feast that's about to come. It's the kind of smell that makes you anticipate every bite. Your roast is now ready to wow your guests or simply to be savored alone. After all, a perfect roast is a joy to share, but it's also a triumph to relish all by yourself. Enjoy! So there you have it. The secrets to roasting revealed. We've journeyed together through the captivating world of roasting, from its fundamental principles to the intrinsic details that make it one of the most loved cooking techniques worldwide. We kicked off by unraveling the roasting riddle, where we discovered that it's all about the heat and how it transforms our food. We learned that understanding roasting is key to mastering it, and that it's all about the balance between temperature, time, and the size and type of food we're roasting. We moved on to prepping for roasting, where we realized the importance of preparing our food and oven correctly. We saw that a well-prepped roast not only looks better, but also tastes better. Then we delved into the roasting process itself, learning the ins and outs of turning raw ingredients into mouth-watering dishes. We discussed the importance of monitoring our roast and making adjustments as necessary to ensure a perfect outcome. Next, we tackled troubleshooting common roasting problems, where we learned that even the best chefs face challenges. But with a few tips and tricks, we can overcome these hurdles and turn them into stepping stones towards perfection. Finally, we reveled in the glory of the perfect roast, a testament to our understanding, preparation, and execution of the roasting process. Remember, practice makes perfect, so go ahead, give roasting a try and discover the joy of a perfectly roasted dish.